All right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody, to a live episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today, this is our Week 8 live show. So I am joined by my weekly co-host, Zach Green, a.k.a. Big Country DFS. Zach, how's everything going for you today?
All right, I'm tired because, we played on Thursday night, so we didn't get home till about midnight, but it's all good.
So you had a full work day today too, right?
Yeah, get
Yeah,
up
those are the worst.
get up at 6 and get going. So
Yeah, I don't envy that at all. It's been a full day here myself, and I still have work to do before I go to bed. So it's going to be a late night, but that's okay because, it just means I get to stay up and watch these games. And I'll be honest with you, I would be doing a little bit better if Walker Eggett would quit throwing Danny Scudero hospital balls.
yeah,
Like he's getting his guy killed out there. I don't know what he's looking at or what he's thinking, or if he thinks this is Madden or something and you can just hit A to possession catch it every time. But he's getting Scudero. He's really putting him in harm's way, and that has me very concerned because I had Scudero at about 90% tonight. Like, this is a weird Friday night slate for me where I was like overweight to all the chalky plays. Like, I have more Taylor than the field. I have more Scudero than the field. I have more Bryson Barnes than the field. So it's really going to come down to, for me, if the random scrubs that I played with those guys end up coming through. And unfortunately, most of those are in the late games. We're going to have to wait a little bit to find out. Anyway,
yeah. I used most of the chalk except for Emmett Johnson. I didn't really like him, so I didn't use him. Like, I don't think I ended up with him at all.
That's looking like a pretty good fade at the moment. Now, we know that, that could turn at a moment's notice in college football DFS. I remember a few weeks ago, we were texting, and you were like, wow, really glad I faded Haynes King and Mekhi Lemon, and then they both scored like 40 DraftKings points in the second half or something like that.
Yeah, they ended up with like 80 combined whenever they had less than 10.
Looked like a good fade until it wasn't, right? That's college football DFS for you. Anyway, let's go ahead and get caught up on the chat. You guys know the format around here. We are going to go position by position for the DraftKings main slate, tell you what we think, who our favorites are, what the strategy is going to be. Not just telling you guys like, hey, play this guy, but going into like, hey, here's this guy, here's why he's a good play, here's how you should be using him, here's how you should be constructing your lineups, and just really getting a lot of strategy that's going to help you get to the top of the leaderboards tomorrow. So I see we got our guy Jay Steele in the chat. Ooh, StreamYard updated the way the comments work. That's a little different looking, but I see he was the first in. Good old Buckeyes fan. We do have Ohio State on the slate tomorrow, and there is a Buckeye that I know we are going to talk about. We've got our guy, Huncho, in the chat. Glad to have you here, Huncho, as usual. Darren in the chat, as usual, as well. Got a lot of the regulars in here. And, yeah, nothing like counting on San Jose State and Utah State for success. Good news is, two pretty good offenses, two pretty bad defenses. So hopefully there's going to be some fireworks in that game. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of scoring. All right, so let me go ahead. Oh, I don't have it open already. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the sheet for tomorrow. While I'm doing that and clicking buttons, Zach, could you tell the people where they can find the sheet?
Yeah, so I post these on Twitter every week we do every slate: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoon, or well, not afternoon because it's the same plays, but night and late night on Big Country DFS Twitter, also the Fantasy Corner Discord, and Big Country DFS Discord as well.
Yeah, so personally, I love the sheets, especially for the bigger slates like this. Great to help organize the thoughts, but also great for us on a show like tonight to generate the discussion. Okay, so you can see that we've got our game environments over here on the left. Zach, I'm going to see if you can guess this, okay? This slate tomorrow has me doing two things with my lineups that I never do, but I'm doing them tomorrow. I've already built lineups with these two things. Do you know what two things I'm talking about?
Not sure.
Okay, so I'll give you a small hint. Both of them have to do with the number 4.
Something to do with only looking at 4 games.
No, not quite. So that's not a bad guess, though. So I have a lineup where I have 4 guys from the same team. That is something I never do, but I think there's a really good case for it tomorrow. I think there's a really good spot for it. Now, I'll give you the bonus challenge. Do you know what team?
Texas A&M.
Bingo, Texas A&M. I think this is one of the biggest smash spots for an offense that we are going to see all season long, just because the Arkansas defense is really, really bad. We saw them give up 56 points to Notre Dame. We saw them give up 40 plus to Tennessee last week. This is just a really bad defense with an offense in Arkansas that I do think can push things around a little bit. You know, they're going to play up tempo. They're going to score some points. So it might push A&M a little bit. And A&M is such a concentrated offense. We're going to talk about those guys later, that I think that there's a possibility you could play just 4 guys for A&M and you could capture all of the points on the A&M side. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but me personally, I can't ever get behind using 4 guys from a team on a 12-game slate, just because there's so many possibilities, and we know how all this stuff goes. You know, your heavy exposure to somebody and they get hurt on the first drive or something random like that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know me and you kind of have contrasting viewpoints too. Like, you're more of a cash guy. I'm more of a GPP guy. So I do think that, you know, if you're coming from a cash perspective, I totally get that. I would not do this in cash. I'm talking like this is like a galaxy brain GPP strategy, that there's a scenario that this could come up to the very top of the board, right? Now, the other thing that I was going to do, that I built one of these already, is I have a lineup where I have 4 receivers from the same game. Is that something you have ever done?
Just receivers, not with the quarterbacks?
Well, they are both double stacked with their quarterback.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that before. I was going to say, if you just did the receivers and not the quarterbacks, no, I've never done that. But
yeah, that would be a dummy move in my opinion.
And I'm guessing that's TCU Baylor.
Bingo. I have a lineup where I have Josh Hoover in 2 of his receivers and Sawyer Robertson in 2 of his receivers. And I think that both of those quarterbacks, they're going to throw the ball enough that they can support double stacks. Now, the hard part is going to be making sure you get the right combination of the 2 receivers from both those teams. But I do think that if that game takes off, and I think that there's a high likelihood it takes off, that it's going to be the quarterback and both receivers from each team that can get there.
Yeah, that's the only issue I have is Baylor is so hard to figure out their receivers, because every week it changes. And then Washington has been limited, but they're coming off a bye and he's healthy now. So I actually like Washington a lot.
Quick side point, if you're playing on FanDuel, Bryson Washington is like priced down with the peasants. He's an insane value play on FanDuel. Like, if you're playing on FanDuel, Bryson Washington would probably check in as like one of the best points per dollar plays this week, just if anybody's over there. And I think on DraftKings, I think you make a valid point as well. With him coming off the bye, he should be fully healthy, and nobody's going to play him because everybody's going to be playing the passing game side of this game. But like I just mentioned that I'm doing. So I do think that it makes a lot of sense to get Washington in the lineup as well. Now, in the chat, Huncho was 100% right. We were talking about Baylor TCU for the 4 wideouts. Darren says, if Bama Vols plays like UGA Vols, I will take 4 receivers from that game. I can see that as well, honestly, because Tennessee, like, super condensed passing offense. They really only throw to like Brazil and Staley. And if you just play those 2 and then Bernard, and I don't think I'm going to play Ryan Williams, but I do think you can play Bernard and somebody else on the Bama side.
Yeah. That's the night slate, but
yeah, the night slate.
I have Bernard in the core on the night because his price is still $5,900. I don't care what happened last week. He's not going to have that happen twice in a row.
And then Myron, I am with you, buddy. No Boise State UNLV. Like, that was one of the votable games this week. If you guys don't know, the DraftKings official Discord does a vote every single week where they take the last 2 games and they put it up to a vote. That was one of the options this week. It did not win. I was disappointed. I feel like I take issue with the game that wins every single week, but it's just people voting for their team. And, Boise State and UNLV, they don't have a whole lot of fans out there that are getting in the chat and voting for them. I wish they would, but it wasn't. And Darren says, TCU owns Baylor. How many straight Horned Frogs win? Like 8? I was not aware of that. However, it doesn't surprise me because if you look at the last decade, TCU's been a much better program. So I could totally.
Baylor won last year.
They did?
Yeah, and they won in 2019. But otherwise, since 2015, it's been all TCU.
So it's probably like, what, 6 of 8 then or something like that?
8 of 10.
8 of 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right. Also, did Carson Beck just throw another pick? Is that what I'm watching? Oh, no, he might have fumbled.
He looks terrible. Raiola looks terrible.
Yeah, this is not a great quarterback.
I hate these midweek. It's like always something stupid. Guys that look in the best matchups, and they just like have diarrhea or something.
I almost feel like for some of these midweek slates, I could just give the phone to my 2-year-old daughter and be like, "Hey, just click 8 guys for me," and she would do just as good of a job as I could, because sometimes it's just totally random, right? Yeah. Anyway, before we transition over to the quarterbacks, Zach, are there any other game environments or situations on this slate that catch your eye, other than the 2 that we kind of just hit on?
Yeah. So I like Duke, Georgia Tech. I know that Georgia Tech's primarily a running team, but it's still a high total over 60 there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one of the easiest plays of the slate on the Georgia Tech side there.
Right.
And then other ones is, let's see, the Clemson SMU, because we know SMU doesn't play any defense. Even if Klubnik is not playing, they have enough guys. And that Vizina guy, whatever, he was a 4-star recruit. So
yeah,
it's not like they're going to – I don't think their offense is going to see much of a downgrade if Klubnik can't go.
So I have not seen much of Vizina. I don't think anybody has, unless like you're out there grinding high school tape from 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's only come in whenever it's like literally 40-point blowout and they're just handing off the ball.
Right. And so I don't know if he's any good or not, but just the Clemson offense in general is in such a good spot that if he just goes out there and plays point guard and just is able to get the ball out in space to Williams and Wesco and Randall, they're gonna put up a lot of points. And so I don't mind that shout as well. Now, I see 2G2 great. I hope I said that right. It says Texas Tech gives up 24 fantasy points to the quarterback. Well, that is a great lead-in to what we're going to talk about next. That's a pretty high number, but I've got one higher for you, okay? Let's go ahead and talk quarterback. Zach, I know you and I have talked about this already. We share our favorite quarterback play of the slate. It is Haynes King at $8,300. So before I let you talk about Haynes, give a little stat for you. 2G2 says he meant TCU. I believe that also. Little stat for you. Do you know how many fantasy points per game Duke allows this season to quarterbacks?
I'm going to guess it's over 30.
Not quite that high, but it's
28.
27. Yeah, now that's if, like, I went back and I looked at all the box scores and I did all the quick math in my head. So there's a little bit of rounding there, right? But about 27 DraftKings points per game to quarterbacks, and that includes a game against Elon, and that includes the first start against Ricky Collins for Syracuse, where he looked dreadful. So pretty much every other quarterback has been lighting them up.
Yeah,
so,
and for cash games, I don't think you even think twice. I think he's probably going to be 90% owned in cash.
He should be. He absolutely should be. This is a guy who has legitimate 40-point upside with one of the best matchups, one of the best game environments that he's had all season long. And you look at his biggest games, it's all been when Georgia Tech has been pushed. He doesn't do all that much when Tech coasts, right? It's the close games. It's the back and forth games that when he does a lot, because it means they're running him. He's running for touchdowns. He's getting his 100-yard bonus. I just think this is a perfect spot for Haynes King. I'm not saying that there's no way he's going to fail, because obviously it's college football. Anybody could fail at any given time. Haynes King also runs like he's made out of steel, and he's not. But it's just such a great play. I think he's one of the easiest clicks of the year at the quarterback position.
Yeah, there's just no way getting around it. That's just, and it doesn't even make sense why sometimes they just drop a guy's price $1,000 for no reason. I mean, he hasn't been below like 22 on a game. I don't think it is. Something like
it's all algorithm based, but like I feel like their algorithm for the NFL works much better than the college one, right? Like the NFL algorithm, very rarely do you see a guy in NFL where it's like, oh, why is that guy like 2K mispriced? Unless they're like a starter that like the the guy ahead of them's injured or something like that. But Haynes King, just objectively, I don't know why he went from 9K to 8K in a week. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Myron in the chat says, play Haynes King naked and keep it pushing. I'm with you on that. I don't think you have to stack him. I don't mind the idea of playing Hosley. I really don't. Hosley's been a backup running back that's been getting more and more run. And, he's pretty cheap as well. So I don't mind that shout. Darren saying, you don't need to be hyping up Haynes King in front of me. Every time I've played him, he gets hurt in the first quarter. Yeah, like I said, he runs reckless. He runs very physical. But running is how you score a lot of fantasy points really quickly. So let's move on to another quarterback now, because Haynes King is likely to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate. Is there somebody you have, Zach, that's flying a little bit under the radar here at the quarterback position? Because I've got one, and I'm curious if they're going to be the same guy.
So once we got the news that he's starting, I'm pretty much going to be high owned on Will Hammond.
Yep.
That it's just too cheap. Texas Tech is loaded with weapons, and he runs the ball.
That's the biggest part to me, is like, this guy's a runner. The times he has come in for Baron Morton, he has immediately just taken off on like a 60-yard touchdown run. And that is really a good spot to play a guy like Hammond at only 7,200, where against Arizona State, he runs one touchdown in, he throws for two more. Instantly, he's going to pay off his salary. I think it's a great price tag, great spot for Hammond. I don't think you need to play him stacked either, because Texas Tech's really been spreading the ball around this year, and he does have that rushing upside. So I think you can play him stacked or unstacked, and I really do like Hammond on the slate.
Yeah, that's just another easy play. I was glad we got the news quickly.
Yes,
on that one,
because there's some news we haven't gotten yet. We're going to get more on that later.
Yeah. I will say that I don't love Sawyer Robertson. I know that guy 2G too great was talking about TCU giving up fantasy points to the quarterback, but a lot of that is due to like North Carolina and some others where they were winning big. A lot of it was the SMU game. But if you actually look at the conference play, Avery Johnson was under 200 yards passing. Joe Jackson had 110 yards rushing. Caden Salter had 3 picks, 217 yards. And then Dallin Hayden had 6.8 yards per carry on the ground. And then against Arizona State, Leavitt was held under 300, only 2 touchdowns. And Raleigh Brown had 134 yards rushing.
So I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. because so like Leavitt, he hit, but it was because he had 62 yards rushing and a touchdown. And Salter had a rushing touchdown. Robertson doesn't run. He gets negative points on rushing because of sacks.
So we'll come back to that point about the rushing for sure. I'm with you. I think I still am going to get Robertson into my pool. I think that he's mainly a game stack play for me. I don't think that I'm going to be setting my lineups and like putting Robertson and a Baylor receiver and then be like, all right, where am I going to next? Like, I feel like if I'm getting to Robertson, it's going to be playing Robertson, playing 1 or 2 of his wideouts, playing Hoover, playing 1 or 2 of his wideouts. Like, I just want to get multiple pieces from it, because that game is, to me, the way that both those guys end up like hitting is that game just completely taking off.
Yeah, and there's definitely a possibility that it's like a 45-52 game. But I also like the idea of stacking Hoover and 2 guys and then Washington on the other side. Or Washington and the chief receiver.
So let's go ahead and get caught up here, because there is one more quarterback I would like to talk about. Is there anybody else that has caught your eye?
Yeah, there's one more for me. I don't know if it's the same guy.
So we'll get caught up in the chat, though. It says, starting to think Hammond is the better option for Texas Tech than Morton. The times I've watched them this season, Hammond's looked better than Morton. I'm on board. I've never really been super impressed with Baron Morton. Like, he's just okay. He gets the job done, but I think Hammond might be able to really have this offense take off. Apparently Carson Beck, I must have missed it, but apparently Carson Beck did something bad.
Threw another pick.
Yeah, I know Carson Beck's like the guy we all love to hate on, right? Like, he's a very easy to dislike quarterback, I'll say. And then we got 2G saying, I like Trigg to pair with him. Yeah, I think that with Baylor, there's certainly options at the wide receiver position. That there certainly is. And, if you play Robertson, you're probably going to want to play him with one or two of those guys. So I will start us off with the next quarterback, but I want to flip this on its head, though. There is a quarterback here that I am 100% full fading. I am not touching with a 10-foot pole. And if people want to play him and he beats me, then so be it. But I'm not touching this guy, and he's actually projected for a little bit of ownership. Do you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about John Mateer. Now, call me a homer, call me a Texas fan, right? Like I just did not like what I saw last week. He just did not look right. And he was putting the ball in bad spots. He was making bad reads. The balls some of them looked underthrown. Like he just did not look 100%. All season long, I have been beating the drum for the Oklahoma offense around John Mateer is not that good. The running backs are below average. The receivers are average at best. The offensive line is below average. And he had been carrying that offense until he got hurt. And now he's not able to carry it anymore. And now he's going into a game environment against South Carolina where there's like a 45-point total. Not a whole lot of points going to be scored. I just don't see it at all at $8,100. I'm not going to get there. And if it beats me, it beats me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it seems like they rushed him back, trying to get him back for that Texas game. And
100%.
I feel like they would have been better off at least giving him some more rest. I mean, they weren't even competitive in that game.
Now, the only counter argument would be is we saw Michael Hawkins play Texas last year too, and that didn't look any better. Yeah. so maybe if you're Brent Venables and you're like, crap, man, I've got a 50% John Mateer, 100% Michael Hawkins, I might just roll the dice with Mateer here. It just didn't work. And I don't think anything that Oklahoma offense was going to work that game. Like the Texas defense was just superior to them.
Yeah.
All right. So is there one more guy you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I will mention, I don't want to talk a whole lot about him, but I'll just mention Mensa for the Georgia Tech Duke stacks. I like that, but I'm not going to play Mensa if it's not a stack, probably.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. The other guy I like, the only thing, like, until I saw Haynes King price, because what I do might be different than other people, but when I first look at the slate is I go and I look at the cheapest quarterbacks and then work my way up. And that's usually how I find my low on, like Stockton and these other guys that been.
Yeah.
And so before I saw King's price and was like, well, you got to have him in core. Trinidad Chambliss at 6,800. He's been solid, 25 DraftKings points in all 4 starts with the rushing upside. The only issue that I do have here is those have all been home games. He's been lucky to have 4 straight home games.
Yes.
And so he's going into Athens in a big game. And so that's what kept me from, being – and now that we have the Hammond news, I don't even have to consider him in cash. King and Hammond are 2 cash quarterbacks fire up. Don't even think twice about it. And so – but I'll do some Chambliss in a couple of GPPs probably.
I like Shameless as well. Like we've seen this Georgia secondary kind of get burnt. Like Joey Aguilar for Tennessee put up over 300 on him. I believe he had 3 touchdowns in that game as well. And you look at what Mississippi Ole Miss, I should say, does offensively. I don't think Ole Miss is going to have a lot of success running the ball in this game. And so I think that's really going to lead to Chambliss having to do a lot more with his arm and with his legs. And even if Ole Miss doesn't win, they're just competitive scoring points. Chambliss probably is going to put up north of 20 DraftKings points.
Yeah. So this is actually going to be one of the slates that I probably have a more condensed quarterback pool than I usually do.
Yeah.
Probably Robertson, Hoover, King, Mensa in stacks, and Hammond. I may play some Vizina if he's starting. Marcel Reed. I don't love doing the quarterback and running back together, but Owens is so cheap too. So
I'm sorry, did Malachi Tony throw a touchdown? Oh no, that was the 2-point conversion. Okay. Either way, did Malachi Tony score the touchdown?
Yeah, he had a rushing touchdown on that one.
Rushing touchdown. Okay, it means that the bet guys didn't get any points. Ooh. Bad news for anybody who play Carson Beck. Okay, anyway, I'm trying not to get sidetracked here. Well, let's get caught up with the chat. 2G says Reed is a lock for me. I like Reed. As I mentioned earlier, I am going to have some Texas A&M lineups where I have some big stacks. I also think I go back to the same point we talked about probably a month ago now when Daniel Highshaw was out for Kansas and LaShawn Williams started. And I made the comment, I'm like, hey, like everybody's going to just play LaShawn Williams. You know, sometimes when it's a backup running back, sometimes the quarterback puts more on his shoulders, and Jalen Daniels ended up throwing for 400 yards. I couldn't even imagine I was going to be that correct that week. So I will have some Reed lineups without Reuben Owens, just for that logic as well. Darren says, what did you do to Lenora Sellers this season? He sucks beyond Aaron Noland. I can't explain that one because Lenora Sellers looked like a legitimate Heisman contender, like future first or second round draft pick last year, and he doesn't look like it this year. I can't explain it. I haven't watched enough of them to really dive deep into it either.
Yeah. I forgot you were going to look through that. Sorry.
Oh, you want me to keep going?
Well, I was pulling up ownership. I was going to just kind of list off some of the ownership for quarterbacks, but
okay,
we can do that in a second.
Okay. And Huncho, Damon feels sneaky. I don't mind that either. He's going to make my player pool. You look at what the Michigan secondary had happen to him last week against USC. Damon Williams is a guy that I just personally like. I think he's electric. Just his natural athleticism, his ability to put up fantasy points, really impressive. I think that is it for the chat, because other than that, we're just talking about Malachi Toney, which is nice. So what you looking at ownership for quarterbacks?
Okay, so obviously King. But what surprises me is Diego Pavia is up there at number 2.
Yeah, people like Pavia this week.
And then Hammond, which I agree with that. And then Hoover, which I also agree with. And then Chambliss, which I thought he was going to be not his own, but apparently not. And then Demond Williams. So Marcel
I would have thought
is way
Williams
down
moving
there.
further down.
Yeah, Reed and Robertson are looking lower right now, which I wasn't going to have a lot of Reed, but now, because I thought he was going to be high owned, but now if he's going to be that low, I want to get some of that.
Is it as simple a fact as everybody's playing Owens, nobody wants to play the quarterback with the running back? Is it that simple?
It could be that, but also because King is $200 less, and so people are just, throwing King in, and Hoover's also $200 less. So they're probably just firing those two guys up, and then they're forgetting about Reed.
Also, we mentioned him earlier. Nobody's playing Vizina for Clemson. Like nobody.
Yeah, 1% right now.
If Klubnik is out, I think that's a really sneaky play.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have him. And I mentioned that in the core write-up for King that I loved Vizina and Hammond if those guys were out. We already got one out, so.
All right, so now let's transition over to running backs. So we'll kind of start off the same way we did last week. Your weekly running back injury report, right? So we've already mentioned it. Le'Veon Moss is out for Texas A&M. Reuben Owens is going to be the starter. It makes him objectively the best running back play on the slate, and possibly of the season.
Yeah.
Like just the matchup against Arkansas, who gives up over 200 rushing yards a game, the workload he's going to receive, the fact that even if they do blow them out, he's the backup already. They're going to keep running him. And price tag, it's just an absolute smash spot. Don't overthink that one. If you're looking to get different in GPPs, I get fading him, but that's a really tough fade to me if you're going to build all your lineups and totally fade him.
Yeah, I would not totally fade him at all. I would at least get some lineups, but I will say one possibility to look at for GPPs is Emmitt Smith's son at min price. He's going to get some run. He had 6 carries. Yeah, EJ Smith, Emmitt Smith's son, because he had 6 carries with Moss, playing that game, and so that's a possibility to look at too. Obviously, you don't want to go crazy with that, but it's something to look at because A&M, they could be smoking him too, and he gets more run too.
That game could totally be over at halftime.
Yeah,
totally could. Arkansas's defense is bad, man. Okay, the other one that we know for certain that I do want to shout him out here. If you're not aware, we've talked for weeks, like a while back, about Ismail Mahdi for Arizona, right? That was when Kedrick Riscano was hurt. He was back last week, and he out-carried Ismail Mahdi in that game. And so you're now looking at a situation where DraftKings is kind of asleep at the wheel. Mahdi is kind of the RB1 for Arizona again, and he's down there at 3,200. He's definitely going to make my player pool.
Yeah, I love Reese Kano. If it wasn't for Owens, he would probably be in my core just because at min price, almost min price, you don't have to do much. And he had 90 yards and a touchdown last week. So,
right.
And already came back with 13 carries. So,
and the other situation, this is one you'll need to wait till Saturday for. Michigan, Justice Haynes, very, very questionable. I don't think he plays. Everything I've read seems to indicate that he's not going to play. If he's out, Jordan Marshall is in as the starter at only $4,200. So if we do get news that Haynes is out, Zach, would you still rank Owens ahead of Marshall? Because I would.
Yeah, I would too. It's not even a question for me.
I do like Marshall. If Haynes is out, I do really like Marshall, but Owens has a better matchup, and I just trust the A&M offense a little more than I trust the Michigan offense right now. Even though I do think Marshall will get a ton of opportunity, opportunity doesn't mean squat if you can't actually do anything with it.
Yeah, and we've seen it several times, like we already mentioned, with these running backs, with guys being out and not doing anything. Another cheap one that I thought was going to be lower owned, but apparently not, is Kevorian Barnes.
I've seen a lot of hype on him this week. A lot.
Yeah.
And personally, this is risky. I'm probably going to fade him.
I'm leaning that too, because he's looked good and he's been getting 10 to 15 carries, but he hasn't scored. He hasn't done anything.
So maybe this is just anecdotal, personal evidence here, but playing college football DFS as long as I have, I can't remember the last time I went, wow, I'm so glad I played that TCU running back. I think Kendra Miller might have been the last guy that actually had good games as a running back of TCU. I feel like they just throw the ball so much. And then you got Hoover. I love Darren likes to make fun of him for fumbling at the 1 yard line, but he does get QB sneaks from the 1 yard line all the time. They don't give it to the running back. So I don't know. I just feel like the TCU running back leads to frustration. If he's high owned, I'm going to use an opportunity to play people elsewhere.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Hoover, but they also are still giving it to Battle and Payne every now and then. Yeah. With Owens and with Marshall, if Haynes can't go, you're looking at probably 20 carries guaranteed on both of those guys. For sure. I that's what I always prefer in running backs is I want that volume because you can't score if you're not on the field.
Right. All right, so now let's go down the board. So if everybody's playing the cheap running backs, the 4K guys, your Barnes, your Owens, your Marshall, if everybody's playing all the cheap guys, one way to be different could be paying up at running back. You say is the best pay-up option at running back this week, Zach? I feel like we might agree.
Yeah, for me, it's Bryson Washington.
Yep.
People are going to be off of him, like you mentioned, because that last game, whenever he was coming back from the injury and he was a little bit limited, but he's literally averaging the last 4 games, 6.4, 6.5, 7.7, 7.2 yards a carry. And he gets volume and he gets passing game work. And we already saw, I went over it earlier with the quarterbacks. Raleek Brown for Arizona State just ran all over TCU. Hayden averaged 7 yards a carry. So what do you think Bryson Washington's going to do when those are lesser running backs?
And also, I feel like people forget because DraftKings, they obviously can't have the game log from 2024 in there with the game log from 2025, right? But this was a guy who had a 50 DraftKings point game in 2024. He had multiple other 30 DraftKings points games in 2024. This is a guy who is an explosive runner. When they get going, he is the only one they like to run, and he should be fully healthy now. He shouldn't be hurt anymore. So I think that it just kind of is a great opportunity to, if you're not doing what I talked about earlier, because like I said, I'm a guy that plays a lot of lineups, so I am going to have my Baylor TCU 2 quarterback, 4 wide receiver lineup, but I'm going to be playing through this game with a lot of Bryson Washington at running back and the TCU passing side, because it really does seem like a lot of people are playing it the inverse way. They're going to play Barnes and they're going to play the Baylor passing attack. So why not invert it and play Washington in the TCU passing attack?
Yeah, and I just looked it up, and that 50-point game was against TCU.
Oh, perfect poetic justice there.
26 carries for 196 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he also had 2 catches for 22 yards.
Yeah, just like chef's kiss on the timing there. The fact that it was up against TCU, just perfection.
Yeah, and the price went down. Obviously, he was 8,200 last game against Kansas State because of the coming into that game questionable. But against Oklahoma State, he was 9,100. This is a guy that shouldn't be below 9,000, so just fired up in a high environment game.
Yeah. Now, is there anybody else above 6K that catches your eye? Because there is one that I do want to talk about, and then I know there's a value play that we're probably both going to be on.
So the one other guy that I like is Adam Randall.
We're in sync again, dude.
Because a lot of people, they're going to look at the last couple of games and be like, he barely got any carry. Well, they were smoking North Carolina in the first quarter. They were smoking Boston College by halftime. They didn't need him. And if Klubnik is out, they're going to rely on him even more, especially because, people forget he is a receiver converted to running back. So they're going to use him in the passing game. He had only 4 catches, but 73 yards and 2 touchdowns against North Carolina. And so it's a good matchup for him.
And what's a backup quarterback's best friend?
Dump off.
Yep, strong run game and checkdowns. Like, if you're a backup quarterback, like this is a lesson for all potential quarterbacks playing football watching out there. You're a backup quarterback. You want to make your coach happy. Go in the game, run the ball, check to runs, and hit your checkdowns. And the coach will be a happy camper. And so Adam Randall, that factors right into that game plan. And I think that Randall is going to get a ton of touches. SMU's defense is not good, particularly in the secondary. And I think that this is a really good spot for Adam Randall.
Yeah. And so I just want to talk before we get to the next guy about the Texas Tech running backs, because I'm sure somebody is ask. But I'm going to be probably almost 100% fading Cameron Dickey. He's going to get insane ownership, people chasing that game. He's $700 more. Well, Jacoby Williams missed the entire second half because of an ankle injury, but the coach said he could have played. They just kept him out precaution because they were in control the whole game, and they already lost Morton, so they didn't want to lose anybody else. And Dickey was doing fine. And so now I love Jacoby Williams at only 5,200 because it's this like a thunder lightning punch that they got going on at Texas Tech.
I'm in alignment with you. I like to think of myself as somebody who can watch football and like ascertain like, oh, that guy's good. That guy can do this. This guy can do that. Right. Like, and when I watch Texas Tech, every time I've watched them this year, which has been quite a bit, I've been more impressed by Jacoby Williams than Cameron Dickey, with the exception of last week. And I really do think that was the exception, not the norm. Jacoby Williams is a guy who is a explosive runner, can break off long plays, really good in the passing game. I'm going to let everybody else chase the big performance from Cameron Dickey and trust what my eyes are telling me, that Jacoby Williams is a big-time player as well, and that his big-time game is going to be coming.
Yeah, and another thing, so people don't think I'm, Cameron Dickey won me $5,000 on FanDuel, so
yeah.
But I'm still not chasing it. And I had him last week too. He helped me win on my lineups last week, but that's because I was just mixing in both guys. But that was whenever they more closely aligned in price. And we talked about it. We've talked about it several times, like with Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, and things like that. When it's a running back by committee and both guys are going to split, there's no reason to pay up for the other one whenever it's going to get the same amount of volume.
And another thing too, I know it's a slightly different concept because, these guys play once a week, but if you ever play NBA or college basketball DFS and, the guy has a career night and then the next time they're on the slate 2 nights later, they're like 2K higher than where they were. That's when you don't want to play the guy, right? Like, because they're not going to repeat the career night, and you're paying more to get them. And then, oh, by the way, they're probably going to come in with higher ownership. I think that's exactly what we're looking at with Dickey this week. That's exactly what it reminds me of, is like this guy in college basketball who just dropped like 30 and 10, and now he's up there priced up with the big dogs, and everybody's going to play him. And I'm just going to be kind of off of him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if there's any other running backs that have caught my interest here. I'm going to be honest. I think we got all the ones that I wanted to talk about. We can go ahead and get caught up on the chat, unless there's anybody else you want.
Just one more is Bo Jackson is the guy that I want to talk about.
Yes, I lost him in the sauce there. I see him right there below Adam Randall.
Because he hasn't been getting the touchdowns, but as we know, positive touchdown regression is going to come for guys that have talent. He obviously is the best back that they got, and they're finally figuring that out. And it's not like his games have been bad.
No duds.
He's been over 14 every game except for that Washington game, and that's with only scoring 2 touchdowns on the year. And now they're getting involved at the passing game too. He had that screen pass for a touchdown last week, and he hasn't had a breakout game yet, but I feel like this could be the time for that. And I'm checking to make sure I'm not telling lies here, but I'm pretty sure Justice Haynes went off on 100
against Wisconsin.
117 and 2 touchdowns. And so he's just too cheap for me right there.
Now, I'm not a meteorologist, but I do believe that there's going to be weather in the Midwest tomorrow too. And so I do think that there's a big time chance that there is a weather game in that Ohio State-Wisconsin game. And if you get that, that only makes me like the running backs even more.
Yeah. And I'm mad at Jeremiah Smith from last week. So
Jeremiah Smith killed me last week, man.
It was
killed me.
It was a smash spot, and he'd been crushing all year.
It just goes to show that Ohio State, like, they were just so much better than Illinois that, like, they just didn't need to throw to Jeremiah Smith. It's just like, you know what? We're just going to come out here and just very casually, kill Illinois. Just very casually. And, if they had thrown to Smith more, it would have been a better day for me. All right, now the rest of the guys in the chat, 2G says Durham has a good matchup as well with Alexander. I would not fault anybody for playing Caden Durham. Super talented guy. We saw him have some big games last year. I'm kind of out on him, but I would not fault anybody for doing so because he's a guy that can rip off a long run at a moment's notice. The LSU offense has been struggling. One way you can help a struggling offense is to establish the run. So I totally understand the logic. I don't think I'm going to get there, though.
Yeah, I just don't love LSU running backs. Is kind of like TCU running backs to me. They just use so many, and even every time it seems like a guy is the guy, then somebody else goes and vultures. And like you said, I don't believe LSU is number 10 in the nation. So I don't know. I think Vanderbilt, they're favored for a reason.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's actually legit this year.
So we also got Darren saying, are we out on Lacey? So that's another one where kind of the same situation with Durham. I would not fault you for playing him. I totally respect the play. I'm out though. He's going to get so many touches, but the problem is Georgia's still a pretty good run defense. And most of Ole Miss's run plays, the times that I've watched them, have been just straight inside zone. And the Georgia defense is literally designed to stop inside zone and make teams get different. That's literally what Kirby Smart does. When I used to coach defensive line high school football, I literally watched a video of Kirby Smart talking, hey, here's how we stop inside zone. And I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense to me. So I'm out on that as a play, but I wouldn't fault you for playing him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to me, I think they're going to lean more on Chambliss's legs than anyone, especially with Arnold. He had some success on the ground against Georgia. So I'm not high on him. Let's see. He's talking about Duke running backs as well. I can't ever get the Duke running back thing right because it seems like they just use all 3 of them.
I would rather just play the Duke passing game. I just don't want to play roulette. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like there's so many
yeah,
receiver situations on this slate where you got to play roulette that I'd rather get my running backs dialed in.
yeah. And there's too many like good, Bryson Washington, Kevorian Barnes. Even though I don't love him as much as others, but Reese Kano, Marshall Owens, Randall Jackson, even Jacoby Williams. There's just so many that I don't need to look at that. But speaking of that, the actual ownership that I'm looking at actually has Barnes higher than Owens, which I am not buying that
That's
for
wild.
1 second.
Are they at
If
least
that's
close?
yeah, they're close, but there's no way that happens.
The one I'm looking at on DFS.
And Kawhi
Hero
Lacey is third.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say as well. It goes Barnes and Owens right neck and neck. Big gap, Lacey, Raleigh Brown, Bo Jackson, Adam Randall. Okay, Cameron Dickey next. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Raleigh Brown, I think they're only doing that because we just got word tonight that Texas Tech lost a D tackle that was actually fourth highest on the PFF grade for the season of tackles. And because Kyson Brown's out again, but still Texas Tech has looked legit, and they pretty much shut everyone down so far.
They have. So back to Darren's question, if you want to play Shepard, like I could see a situation for him getting there. Just know that you're playing a guy in a timeshare, and don't be mad if it ends up being an Anderson Castle game, because that's just what it can happen, right? And then MD, is Will Hammond a good play? Yes. We talked about him. See your reply to him. Yeah. We talked about Will Hammond. We both love him. He's going to be one of my highest owned quarterbacks tomorrow. Yeah. But don't mind answering that now as we're here.
But one thing I will mention on this ownership, if it's they're probably just waiting for sure on Haynes news, but 7, 8, 9, 10. Marshall's actually the 12th highest owned, and Washington's 11th. I'm going to be very high on those two guys if that stays the same.
If Justice Haynes is out, I'm going to be much higher on Jordan Marshall than the 10% number that I'm looking at.
Yeah, and Bryson Washington to be that low owned is crazy to me too. But
so I'm like in and out here. Did Miami miss a field goal?
I'm not sure. I don't have a TV in my room here that I do.
I just see a sad Carson Beck on my screen.
Another interception.
Oh, good Lord, Carson Beck. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. That's a bad loss. Now, Louisville's not a bad team, but
at home, too.
Yeah. Well, and no one should be more mad right now than the commissioner of the ACC, because with Miami losing this game, you're pretty much guaranteed now that you're going to get one team in the playoff. And if Virginia and Georgia Tech run the table and it's a Virginia-Georgia Tech ACC title game, yeah, it's going to be just the winner of that game. It's not going to be a two-bid ACC. Yeah, that's a catastrophic loss for Miami.
Yeah.
Like that's a Category 5 loss. Pun intended. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead now and talk about the wide receivers. So this is a slate that I am going to be totally honest about the wide receiver position. I'm going to see if you agree with me. I don't see a whole lot of wide receivers that I'm like, I got to play that guy, right? What I see is a lot of receivers that it's like, I want to play him stacked with his quarterback, or I want to play him stacked as a part of this game environment, or, like in that regard. I don't see a lot of like must play super obvious wide receivers. There's a few that I want to talk about, but there's not like anybody that like super stands out with me in terms of I got to get that guy into my lineups. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think most of the guys that I for sure want to get are the running backs. But like you said, there's several guys, and I want to make sure I get to all of them. But if I did have to pick one in particular, it would be Keyshawn Brown from Duke, just because
I like the shout.
He's been solid. Again, it's another guy. He only has one touchdown on the year, but he's averaging 13.5 DraftKings points a game. Mm-hmm. If you throw out the Illinois game, it's even higher because it's only been below. He's only been below 10 twice, and it was the Illinois game where Duke just got obliterated, and then the North Carolina State game. He's been getting solid 5 catches a game pretty much, and the touchdown regression is going to come. And I think we've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially last week, teams are trying to focus more on shutting down Barcate, or however you say it. Barcate, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, he still did decent, but he's also 6,000. It's another thing where this guy's getting the same amount of volume and he's $2,100 less. And it helps me get Washington and King and those other guys.
If you play, I'm going to have to watch the Duke game with the sound on tomorrow, so that way I know how to pronounce. I'm assuming it's Q-Sean. It might be Quayshawn. I don't know. But I really like getting to him because basically if you're willing to play 1, maybe 2 cheap wide receivers tomorrow with Reuben Owens, you can really play who you want after that. Like you can get a lineup with Bryson Washington and like a Hoover McAllister stack if you play a Q-Sean Brown and a Reuben Owens at running back. So he really does open up a ton. And you know, he's a natural bring back for Haynes King lineup. So I'm going to be on him tomorrow as well. Now, one guy that I will shout that I did some digging on, and I decided that I like this guy, Chris Hudson for Arizona. So do you have the Pro Football Focus target numbers in front of you? Because I don't want to be misquoted here.
Yeah, I can pull it up real quick for Arizona.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think he is going to be I don't want to say the new Tedero McMillan, because obviously he's not Tedero McMillan. He's not going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. But this is a guy that, you know, when he was at Washington State, he was a pretty good wide receiver the last 2 years, and transferred to Arizona, was supposed to be the wide receiver 1. And in the last few games, he has seen bona fide wide receiver 1 usage. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but is it not double-digit targets in 2 of the last 3 games?
Yeah, he had 10 against Iowa State and then 15 against BYU.
There we go. That's enough for me. I'm going to be playing him at 3,900 against a Houston defense that I think is okay, but not great.
Yeah, I like that play too.
And honestly, on the other side, I don't mind Amari Thomas either. You know, we played him last week, did well for us. They increased his price a little bit, but it wasn't enough to deter me from playing him.
Yeah, I don't mind Thomas. I'm more, for me personally, because I like Washington a lot. I'm more of like the cheap under 4,000 receivers, or kind of those like Eric McAllister, 6,300, those type of range.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys in like the mid range that I think are just like, I like them, but I really want to play them stacked. Like McAllister at 6,300, boom, like easy. Like if I'm playing Hoover, I'm playing McAllister, right? Josh Cameron for Baylor, he's my pick of the Baylor wide receivers. If I'm playing Sawyer Robertson, I'm going to be playing Josh Cameron. And then Denzel Boston, I like at 6,600 as well. But again, if I'm going to be playing DeMond Williams, I'm going to be playing Denzel Boston. And that's mainly because, you know, we normally fear the Michigan defense. Mekhi Lemon did a pretty solid job against them last week as a wide receiver 1, and he didn't even get the benefit of all the touchdowns from the USC offense. Boston is a guy that really has a ton of upside with the touchdowns for Washington. I think it's $600, stacking with DeMond Williams and go about the rest of your lineup. I think he's a really solid play.
Yeah, I like Boston too. My first lineup that, you know, I kind of just like to do a lineup before I do anything, before I look at anything. And so my first initial cast lineup was like, that's too cheap. And I had him in there. And I might have him in there because I was just looking, and I have Antonio Williams, and I have literally $200 left over. So I could just easily get him in there.
Yeah, nice and easy. Why not?
And another thing I'll mention for this week is the last few weeks, I feel like I feel like I did, you know, the sheet and everything and did my guys and all that. But then I let all of the noise of other junk, you know, all the other sites, because there's so many places you can get content, talk me into these guys that I wasn't really liking. And I feel like that's what's been hurting my performance last few weeks. And so I'm seeing today with this ownership, because the number 1 receiver on the ownership, I'm not even considering it at the moment. And so I feel like I just have to be confident in my plays, because it's not like I'm stupid.
Right.
Obviously, I do what I know what I'm talking about sometimes, and so I feel like I'm more confident this week than I have been in the other weeks so far.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that with me having kind of a lack of conviction at along the wide receivers of this slate, it's really going to help me make a narrow player pool, which is one of my weaknesses. Is I tend to get FOMO and want to make this huge player pool when in actuality, like, I'm on the right guys if I don't expand the player pool, but I get more combinations the smaller it is, and so I really think that I'm really hoping that it's going to be a good week for me this week because of the fact that there's just not a whole lot of guys I'm that interested in. All right, so let's talk ownership real quick because I'm looking at ownership, and I heard you say you're not interested in the guy that's highest on the ownership you saw. I am in agreement, but I don't know if it's the same receiver that I saw.
For mine, it's Omega Blake.
Oh, for mine was Isaiah Satania.
Well, same. I don't like him either.
So let's go ahead and talk about him. So you're saying you have no interest in Blake?
Well, to me, there's just so many. Like, it's another thing where his last price was 6,000. He's jumped 1,000, but he hasn't done anything to prove that. 11 and a half, 13, 12. He's only scored over 20 the one game, and it was a 52-7 blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And with the one guy, they have two Browns. The one Brown is
yes.
out.
Jaylen Brown, I believe, is out. Not to be confused with Boston Celtics Jaylen Brown.
You have Raylene Sharp at almost min price, who outscored Blake last week. So my thinking is Texas A&M is going to try to shut down Blake. So get Raylene Sharp for dirt cheap, almost nothing. And so that's why I don't like him too much. I just, whenever you're paying 7,000, you're going to need more than a 17-point game average. You're going to want higher than that. Or if it's not the average, because cash games, you want to see the average for the floor. But for GPPs, you want the guys like Malachi Toney who, one play 90 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But Blake isn't really doing that either. He's only had the game of 20 and game of 28. You want to see those games like going back to the one we just talked about with now I got to go click on it before I forget. Boston. He's had 27, 19, 31, 20, those type of games.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get that from Boston, why would you want to pay $400 more for Blake?
And I don't know, maybe I'm not the highest on Omega Blake. I think what you're probably seeing with the ownership is a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm playing Marcel Reed and Ruben Owens. Why wouldn't I play a guy on the Arkansas side? And oh, look, he's right there. Like maybe, but I don't know. I'm not understanding why the ownership's so high. I understand if you're building a game stack lineup, getting to him, but I don't think I'm going to be on him a whole lot. The guy that I'm going to be fading, you might disagree with me here. I'm not high on Isaiah Satania at all. It's just this general distrust of the Oklahoma offense. The only counterpoint I could see is that with him only being $3,600, he doesn't need to do a whole lot to pay off value. But I just don't trust this offense right now, and I don't know why I would want to invest in a piece of that offense that's super highly owned.
Yeah, so 2 points here. First is going back to the Blake thing. I feel like what happens when we get so much value is guys just lose their mind, and they just, like you said, they just see, oh, I need to spend money, so let me throw in Blake because that's a high total.
Yeah.
And it's like, they still need to make sense. Who cares if you're leaving money? I'll leave up to $1,000 on a lineup and feel comfortable doing it. If I feel comfortable with the guys, I'm letting it roll. So that's what I wanted to say on Blake, that one last thing. And then Satanga, I agree with you. If it was a situation where we didn't have a lot of value, okay.
Right.
But you talked about Hudson. We talked about Keyshawn Brown. Raylene Sharp. Colby Young's even there at 3,900. Van Drevius Jacobs at 3,900.
There's one more I'm going to mention here in a minute too.
So if he's getting that ownership, and we know the offense is bad, looks bad, the total is 42.5, and it's a road game at South Carolina too. I don't see it.
Yeah. Honestly, I really do like slates where like this where I look at it and I see who the chalk is, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really feel that great about that. Like, it just makes me feel a little bit better knowing that I'm going to have more outs to win because I'm not playing all the chalky guys. So there's a few more things at receiver I want to talk about. Let's play one of our favorite games of pick one. Start with the Baylor guys. You got Trigg, you got Cameron, you got Cole Wilson, you got Ashton Hawkins, and Kobe Prentice. If you had to pick one, who would it be? Because I know who my answer is.
So I think a lot of people's answer is going to be Trigg.
Correct. Not mine.
No, not mine either. Because I just can't stand the thought, no matter how good they are, of paying almost $6,000 for a tight end.
Mm-hmm. Now, if there was a tight end only position,
yeah,
you might change my mind there. But yeah, I agree with you. But I want to you keep going.
Yeah.
I'll see what you say.
Well, it feels like one of those things where they're chasing again from a previous week. Again, you have to remember, Bryson Washington was very limited coming into the game, and it was not involved. That changed the whole complexion of their offense, which led to him getting the 13 targets, the 8 catches, and 155 yards. Before that, he only had 12 targets and 10 catches in the last 3 games combined.
It's a few duds in there.
Yeah, he got that huge price jump. And so, to me, the number one has always been Josh Cameron. And Robertson likes to target him all the time. And then Cole Wilson is another guy that he likes as well.
Yeah, I don't mind Wilson at all. I would probably have it Cameron and then Wilson in that order for me.
Yeah, same.
Also, Darius Taylor just banged in a touchdown.
Yeah, Nebraska's killing me, though, because I didn't think they would – I thought they would struggle because it was a road game, and I've never been a fan of Raiola. But I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
I wish I had the conviction to bet it, but I was telling one of my friends over this week, I'm like, how many times have we seen there be a head coach firing in the middle of the season, and instantly there's a guy whose name is linked to it, and then that guy's team immediately loses? Like, I felt like that was exactly what was going to happen with Nebraska because everybody's thinking that Matt Rule is going to be the next Penn State coach, and clearly the team did not show up ready.
Yeah, and the thing that makes me mad the most is my Flex Friday for Prize Picks. Literally, Darius Taylor was only 2.5 catches. I was like, fire that up. He already has 4.
Yeah.
CJ Daniels, 2.5 catches. He had 3 in the first quarter.
Yep.
It was looking great. And then I have freaking Ja'Cory Barney has 1 catch for 1 yard.
Well, the good news is they're going to have to throw in this second half.
Yeah, that is true. and he's a guy that can hit it on one play. So it's still alive, but right now it's looking not great.
So carrying on. If you had to pick one, Mario Craver, KC Concepcion, which one you picking?
That's always tough.
Because I've got a very nuanced answer here.
So for me, it's always a tough one. But what I tend to do with those types of situations is I get the guy that was the least performed, trying to get the words right, that was the least successful the week before.
Mm-hmm. Which would be Craver.
Yeah, because everyone chases that other guy. I mean, I don't hate either one of them. So if I had to pick, it would probably be Craver because I think he's going to come in less owned because he's higher priced and he was a little bit bad last week. My
nuanced take is that when you look at the pricing and you look at how they score their points, I like Concepcion on DraftKings where it's full PPR, and I like Craver on FanDuel where it's half PPR. Because Concepcion's a guy that's going to get these, peppered little slot targets, and Craver's going to be the guy that's going to get more deep routes, intermediate routes. Slightly less volume for Craver generally. So I do think Concepcion is the guy that I would rather have on DraftKings format. Now, one more we'll do with this.
And I will say some bad news. Doesn't mean he's a bad play, but I was with you. I thought Hudson was going to come in lower owned, but he's actually was second highest on my list of receivers.
Chris Hudson?
Yeah.
Dang, he was 5th on mine.
But I think if we're off of Blake and we're off of Satania and we're off of Trigg, those are the other guys right there.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So last one, and Myron mentioned this in the chat. Hold on, I gotta go find it, pull it up. It says, if y'all talk about the SMU receiver roulette yet? That's what we're about to do now. So SMU, the number one receiver all year long has been Romello Brinson. But there's a guy that I like now, but that's back. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Maybe.
I like Jordan Hudson. And I'm not referring to Bill Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan Hudson.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever tried to search for players on Twitter, if you've ever tried to search for players on Twitter, like for injury news, and you search their name, it's impossible to search SMU's Jordan Hudson because everybody's talking about Bill Belichick's Jordan Hudson. So it's quite annoying. But Jordan Hudson is healthy for this game. And I think that you look at this guy, he was their wide receiver one last year. He was a better receiver than Brinson was last year. Why would he not be again this year? Only $3,300 coming in off of a solid performance. I think he's going to be the guy I like in the SMU receiver room. But like Myron said, it very much is a roulette. There's not really clearly defined roles just yet. And it's definitely, a weekly game of who's going to hit. And I think it's going to be Jordan Hudson this week.
Yeah, I like Hudson. People like that have been out for a little while, people forget and they overlook them. And so I like that, especially pretty much mixing up anybody. It seems like everybody's just going to flock to Brown and Satania for cheap. So just playing anyone other than those two, and you're set. A couple other cheap ones, just last minute here. Caden Lee's been getting more volume recently.
Don't mind that.
For Ole Miss, and also Deuce Alexander, because he continues to be almost min-price for them as well.
Mm-hmm. If you had to pick one amongst the Ole Miss receivers, who would you pick?
I think my gut was Lee. Let me pull up the targets just to make sure, because I think recently with since the takeover by Chambliss, I think it's been Lee.
For me, it's just like, how many of these situations have we seen where there's, in the preseason, we think it's going to be this receiver that's the wide receiver one, and it doesn't start out that way. But then you get to this time of year, and it kind of has ended up being that way. Like TCU with Eric McAllister. I think it's the same way with Ole Miss, where Caden Lee is going to end up being the cream of the crop, like we always thought he would be. It just hasn't been an every game thing yet.
Yeah, so it's still pretty even on the targets, right? Deuce has 4, 6, and 5 the last 3 games, and Lee has 3, 5, and 3. But Lee has been getting touchdowns the last couple games.
Well, and the Washington State game was really weird too.
Yeah. Oh, and Daquan Wright too. They love the tight end as well. He's got 4 catches each of the last 2 games and 2 touchdowns 2 of the last 3 games.
Yeah. All right, so that probably does it for wide receiver for me. We can get caught up in the chat. Let's see. We talked about yeah, that's funny. Darren saying we don't have Sam Jackson V on this week's slate. Honestly, people would say that was like an all-time bad play or something. I don't regret playing him. It was just wrong. Like I can sleep well knowing that if he ended up scoring 20 DraftKings points, I was going to have him. And sometimes you just run out bad. Says poor city of Miami having to watch Beck into it. Yeah, that's funny. If anyone wants to join me on the Chandler Morris bandwagon, I actually really like watching Chandler Morris play at Virginia. That's he's been really good. What is Tyson's floor tomorrow? So Tyson is going to get like some insane volume. I don't know why Jeremiah Smith is so highly priced above Jordan Tyson, if I'm being honest. I feel like they should be closer to even in price, especially considering on DraftKings it's PPR. I would say Tyson's floor is probably about 15, if I had to guess. I'm probably not going to have a lot of him, though, just because I really trust this Texas Tech defense.
Yeah, that's a long road trip as well. I like Tyson, and it's probably the perfect time to play him with Smith there and then the other chalk with Blake right there below him. But like you mentioned, and also Leavitt's coming off an injury as well. And so Texas Tech, playing in Lubbock's a kind of different animal here. So I'll probably get some exposure just because he's a talented receiver, right? But I just don't love it. And also, I just Googled the weather real quick because I'm only 3 hours from Lubbock, and it's been windy here the last few days, and it's supposed to be windy again tomorrow. So,
yeah. Now, last one, and then we will wrap this thing up with the core four. The highest scoring wide receiver tomorrow is ... That's a tough one. So I think I have an idea, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you good information here, Darren. I'm going to call my shot on Eric McAllister. I just think that it's shaping up for Baylor and TCU to have a lot of fireworks, a lot of high scoring, and I think he's going to be the one wide receiver that could go out there and really dominate targets, really dominate volume, and put together a huge game. So I'm going to stake my claim on Eric McAllister. You have a vote, Zach?
Yeah, if you want it to be different, I can come up with somebody, but
so would you pick McAllister too?
Yeah, I mean, from the start, I was like, I got to play him. That price is stupid. It went down after he's put up, he had that massive game. And I know a lot of it was late, but so you play 4 quarters for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And
they all count the same.
Yeah, they're coming off a loss. They're going to need a win. And it's one of those situations where he had a slow start to the year, but now he's getting that volume. And if he was getting this volume at the beginning of the year, he would be priced like Smith right now.
Right.
So if I had to pick one just to be different for highest price receiver or highest scoring, I'm still thinking. So this probably depends on. Well, I don't know. It may depend on Klubnik being in or not, but I have a feeling that Antonio Williams is fixing to bust out. He's come back in and he's had 5 catches or more each of the last 3 games since he's been back. They even used him running a little bit last week.
Right.
But he just hasn't got a touchdown. But he's put up 10, 15, and 18 points. And SMU, as we've seen all year long, does not play defense.
Not at all.
So he would be my pick, especially if he's going to stay at 2% owned. Yeah. This site that I'm looking at has him projected for 2% owned and 8 DraftKings points when he's been over that number every single week. I don't get it sometimes.
I'm seeing 2% as well.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm going to have a lot of Antonio Williams, especially with everybody using Craver and Concepcion and and McAllister. But you can easily fit. Like I got a lineup right now that has Washington, has McAllister, has Williams.
There's plenty of value.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this thing up now. Going a little overtime. That's okay. The core 4. So we actually kind of hit on all of these guys throughout the show today, which is good. It means we don't really need to rehash it. But we've got Haynes King at quarterback, Ruben Owens at running back, Bo Jackson at running back, and Keyshawn Brown at wide receivers. It says that this is your core. So would you say this is more of like a cash game core or a GPP core?
It's definitely more of a cash game core. I still like it for GPPs, but those guys are all going to be very highly owned. So if you're one of those people that doesn't like a lot of chalk, then I wouldn't say fade all of them, but like in a GPP, you could play King and Owens and then play one of those other cheap receivers that we talked about that's not getting any ownership over Brown. Or Marshall over Jackson, especially if Marshall stays low owned. We've talked about this several times before, but there's nothing wrong with having literally 5, 6, 7 guys that are chalk in your lineup.
Right.
You only need the one.
It just boils down to understanding where your leverage is. Like I mentioned this on the pod last week, but I had the lineup last Friday night where I took down the $3 tournament on DraftKings where I played a ton of the chalk plays like a Byron Brown, Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston, all on that Friday night slate. But I had the 1% Koger for South Florida, and that was what won it for me. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing chalky guys as long as you understand that they're not going to make or break the difference for your lineup, and you can really understand that, just because Haynes King scores 40 doesn't mean I'm going to instantly win money. You got to understand that you're going to be winning or losing based off of those other pieces.
Yeah. But so what I'm definitely going to be doing is Keyshawn Brown. He'll be in my cash line, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to definitely mix in like Hudson and Sharp and some of these other guys in the GPPs. And then Jackson, I'll probably mix around with, I may get Barnes just to have one just in case. Reese Kano, definitely, I can't forget to get him.
Mm-hmm.
And so just mix it up. Jacoby Williams, too.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's kind of wrap us up here.
Yeah, I will say the comment about Tevin Williams for Baylor. I don't think he's that great. I mean, Jace Brown had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Tyson had 7 for 43 and a touchdown. The number ones have been smoking Baylor all year. Baylor just doesn't play defense.
Yeah, a lot of different factors, a lot of different players have been killing Baylor all year.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about that, especially when he's only 6,300. I mean, even Romello Brinson, he had those 2 huge plays, touchdowns against Baylor. Chance Underwood, Vultures. Yeah, that's definitely possible too.
Definitely a possibility.
That's the issue that you have with these mobile quarterbacks. If you're playing the running back, you always have to have that, that has that risk. But even like tonight, we saw stinking Isaac Brown runs it all the way down, and then they go and have Miller Moss shove it in.
Of course, right? And I had no Miller Moss tonight, so I was not.
And he's going to be the optimal. Stupid. Like this game, Utah State, San Jose State, total like 60 something, and Scudero's not. He's only has 2 catches.
Unless we get a big night from Jerron Kiawe Sagapola-Tele from Cal.
He had a rushing touchdown already.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I need some points from him because I actually had a good bit of him because if you're underweight to Miller Moss and Carson Beck and Frayola, which I was, then you're going to be overweight somewhere else. And JKS was the guy I was overweight on. So we'll see how that game goes.
Oh, I do have a decent line. Oh, yeah, never mind. I was like, I do have a decent lineup right now, but it has Beck in it. There's no way that
right.
If that ends up cashing something, I'm gonna be surprised. But it's cashing decent right now. But it's because I had Tony Daniels double stack and they went over 50.
They both were great. Yeah.
Oh, it's because I faded Scudero. It's the one line I faded Scudero in, and he's like, I don't know if he's dealing with that injury, but he only has 2 catches, not doing anything.
Yeah.
So literally fading Scudero is going to set you apart right away.
I need him to come back in the game because I had a lot of them.
But that's the one lineup that I played Emmett Johnson too. I just did everything bad. I had the perfect fade of Scudero. I faded Johnson in every other lineup, but I kept him in that one.
So it was like the opposite FOMO lineup. Like, make sure I get one of Johnson, but not Scudero. And if you faded both of them, you'd be sitting pretty. But all right,
Minnesota's about to score again.
I believe that is going to wrap us up here. Oh, Darren asking for the weekly high school sports update. So Zach, I believe your team played last night, right?
Yeah, we played the number 2 team in the state. They lost in the playoffs last year to the state champions, and so it was 41-7 at halftime. And then thankfully, both teams just decided to never passed the ball again in the second half, and it was 55-7 for the final.
Oh,
so a long road trip, but yeah.
At least you got the bus started a little earlier if both teams were running that much.
Yeah, but thankfully it was the second to last road game, so we only have one more road game, so that's nice.
Yeah. So I mentioned you guys on here that coaching the girls flag football this year. And we started the season Monday night at home, right? And the way they're doing games this year is kind of different. Like it's like 3 teams go to one site, and you play like team 1 versus team 2, team 2 versus team 3, and then team 1 versus team 3, right? Like you just kind of like play around robin. And so we did that Monday night, and we played 2 teams near us, and we went 2-0. We won 12-0 and then 22-6. But offense is very much a work in progress. They mentioned last week how they sprung new rules on us. Now you can rush from 1 yard back as opposed to 7 yards back. So there were a lot of sacks. There were a lot of quarterbacks throwing panic balls. Like just offense is a work in progress. Our defense was great. I've still got to work on the offense, but I've got 2 really fast girls that run track. And we put in speed option as our primary run play, right? Because if you just try to hand the ball off and there's a girl 1 yard from the line of scrimmage that's just coming free, she's going to get the handoff in the backfield, right? Not like actually take the ball, but, get the ball carrier. So we went to speed option as our primary run play, and it worked like a charm. The girls have worked on the option pitch and the spacing, and they've gotten pretty good at running it. And I've got 2 really fast girls that can run it. And if one of them gets loose in space, they're not getting caught. And I was able to scheme that up enough times that we were able to put up some points. So don't really have a whole lot of confidence in the rest of the season, but it'll still be a work in progress, but everybody else is a work in progress as well.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going well, going as good as it could be for the start here.
Yeah. And the one thing is, I don't ever want to hear like a high school football coach be like, oh, I can't teach a high school quarterback how to option pitch. Can't teach them how to run speed option. Like, dude, I just did it with a bunch of girls. Like, you can teach somebody speed option. You can teach them the option pitch. It's not rocket science. They just have to rep it and practice it, and you can do it. And yes, Darren, we do have a jet sweep. One of our actual most successful play Monday night was we actually faked the jet sweep into speed option the opposite way. And you just see the whole defense flow, and now it's like a true 2-on-1, and you get the pitch out there, and we're off to the races. So yeah, we do have the jet sweep in the playbook as well. But other than that, like, the passing game's a super work in progress. We're gonna have to figure something out. So we'll see. But yeah, 2-0 start, and we play tomorrow morning as well, 9 and 10 a.m. So I'm not going to be able to set my lineups tomorrow. So I'm actually going to do everything tonight before I go to bed. I'm actually writing the Patreon article. I am building my lineups, doing everything before I go to sleep. So that way tomorrow I can just wake up and solely focus on the flag games. So I'm planning as if Justice Haynes is going to be out, and I'm going to really be in for some lineup changing at 11 o'clock if Justin Haynes is in.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I've seen, it shows like he's going to be out.
Yeah. So let's hope that works out how we're thinking it does.
Oh, now, of course, now it says game time decision. That's
great. But at least everybody will think it's a game time decision, right? Not just me. It'll be everybody. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But all right, that's going to do it here. I'm very tired. I've still got stuff I got to get to. So we're going to go ahead and log off. If that's okay with everybody. But Zach, as always, thank you for joining me. Doing a great job as the co-host this season on the live show. Really been a success. Really enjoyed doing it. We're now halfway through the season. So everybody, if you're watching in the chat before you go, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us out a ton when you guys do that. If you want the sheet that we were looking at all episode, Zach's got it on his Twitter at Big Country DFS. It's also posted in the Fantasy Corner Discord, which I am in also, and that link is in the description. But that is going to do it here for us this week. Thank you guys for watching the list to this point. Best of luck to you guys on the Week 8 main slate, and we will see you guys next week.